Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be building a new quadcopter, and this is going to be my first F7 quadcopter. It's going to be pretty insane. So what I'm using here is a sick, beautiful looking stack from Holybro. So this is the Hakcrc F7, so not the all-in-one flight controller, and I'm also using the Holybro Xt60 ESC right below it. And it's going to make for a beautifully clean build, and I really want to try the F7. It's going to be pretty interesting. It's using a sensitive gyro, but look how big the microcontroller unit. I'm about to show you that right now. It's going to be pretty crazy. So let's take a look here. Look at that. It's just huge. It's humongous. So for example, if we take the Hakcrc V2, and if we take a look at the F4 microcontroller unit, you see there's a big ass difference right there. So yeah, we're going to be using the Hakcrc F7, the Holybro Xt60 4-in-1 ESC, and they connect via these pins, and they also do provide you with those pins. And for frame, we're going to be using the Geprc Mark II, as I believe. I'll leave a link to this one down below. I think this is the 6-inch version or the 7-inch version. I don't remember. But this is a salvaged frame from also a Hakcrc build, and I knew how it flew absolutely phenomenal, and I really want to test it with this current setup here. Now for VTX, I'm going to be using the AT Lateral V2. This is a production model. So previously I had a pre-production model, and there was just some noise, and then once I removed it, it went away. But I think it was a grounding issue. And this time I've already have that prepared. I've used some kind of, something to isolate SMA port from the frame here, so we don't get any issues or problems. And I'll leave a link to these little rubber grommet thingies here down in the links below. I'll have everything linked down below if you're curious. So yeah, we're going to be using this stack with the AT Lateral V2. I'm going to be using a run cam. You could also use a Fox here. They're like $17 now. I would have used a Fox here, but I didn't have one. This one was already on this frame, so I'm just going to use this guy. I'll leave a link to that one and this one down below. Receiver XM Plus, so I really like this receiver. And what else is there? I think that's pretty much it. And just the motors, I guess. So the motors, what I will be using is a pretty demanding motor. This is the Xt60 Pro V2. And it is the 2350 kV. So I want to try to run a 6S on it, but I might just burn it immediately. And I just want to see how that's going to stack up later on, after I enjoy it for a little bit, because even on the box, it'll tell you, it's a maximum 3 to 4S right there. So yeah, but it's a pretty low kV. It should be hella torquey, like crazy torquey. And I'll be able to put 6-inch props on this guy. So it's going to be pretty fun. And yeah, I'm very curious how this is going to stack up. So enough talking. Let me prepare everything, and let's just start building. Alright guys, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and start preparing the ESC. And for building, I'm going to be using the TS100 soldering iron. This is a portable soldering iron. I really love this. And there's a newer version out, but I guess it's lower. It has a lower power output, so this one was still always the best. So yeah, I'll leave a link to this one down below if you're curious. I'm basically building everything with this now. So let's get started here, and we're just going to start by preparing the pads. And I've noticed that they have changed the Xt60 slightly a bit, and we're going to have to be retesting this very soon on the channel. So first thing, let's just go ahead and zoom in, prepare the camera for you guys. So let's go ahead and start preparing these beautiful big pads. That's why I really love this ESC also. It just has some nice pads there. Get a very good connection with your motor wires, and should overall be phenomenal. There's a little bit of dirt here that came from somewhere. I don't know where that came from. It's contaminated my joints here. I think I should have removed the standoffs here, but that's fine, no problem. So make sure the tip's always clean, and you're resting your forearms on the table here. So you can get a nice stable solder joint, where your hands become very stable on the area that you're soldering. So you don't go and just bump a capacitor and you bridge a shitload of things together, which basically ruins your day and can possibly ruin your whole build. If you bridge two things and you haven't noticed that you bridge two things together. So I really like these big pads here. Just be careful of the solder splatter. That could be pretty bad at times. So as you can tell, the ground is kind of cooling down quicker than the positive there, because the ground is just all over the board. And I think these are also ground pads. There we go. All right, so let's do these now. Let's go ahead and just get a little bit more solder. So if you're curious about what solder I use, I get this from Tesco. It's called Fahrenheit. It's very good, actually. It's all I use. I got lucky with it. But if you know, if you're having a very hard time soldering, try different solder. That can usually make a big difference on your builds. For me, I just lucked out with this one. I've just been using it ever since I found it. I've gotten some cheaper ones online, but nothing really worked as good for me as this one does, actually. Currently, I have my TS100 set up at 400 degrees Celsius. So that's what I like to do everything at, really. It just makes things easier, but you know, not everything that's good for, because some wires will melt a bit. This one I can't see what I'm doing. Hopefully I don't melt the standoff there. There we go. It's just so nice to set up. I really like this. We have this one left here. And we'll be basically done with the ESC for a while. Well, actually, maybe we should install the motors. Oh no, we'll come back to the motors. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and grab the flight controller and start soldering everything that needs to go to the flight controller. Now, did you see these? These are splatter of, what is it called? Flux. These little dots right there that you see these. They're pretty much stuck on there. And one thing that I really like about the copper tape here is it kind of does act like a little bit of a heat sink, but it also protects from solder splatters. If we were to have some kind of a solder splatter somewhere, we would have seen it. But here, this is just flux. It's totally fine, because I think this one is a flux core, this solder here, so that's why I don't need to use flux, and it makes things look a lot easier. Alright, so let's get the flight controller into place here. And by the way, the ESC must be put in like so. Let me just double check. So here's the front. Yeah, alright. 1, 2, okay. So the power pads should be off to the left, because motor 1 is here, motor 2 is there, motor 3 is there, and motor 4 is there. And that's perfect Betaflight orientation, since we are going to be using the provided connector, and that's how they are oriented. Unless you want to go ahead and start switching up the wires, I don't recommend doing that unless you know what you're doing. And for me, it doesn't matter. This is perfect, because you know, for this frame is a top mount, so I need the Xt60 to wrap around one of the standoffs anyways, and or I can just stick an Xt60 right there without a wire. I'll figure that out later on, but currently I'm very satisfied with it like this. So let's go ahead and grab our flight controller. I'm going to prepare everything. I'll prepare all the wires, so when we come back, we just connect it, and it'll just be super straightforward and simple to watch. So first things first, what I want to do is I want to start by installing the wires, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the camera wire first. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I think there's 2 pads for the camera wire. There's 2 places you could solder these guys at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder it right here. However, if you're not very well experienced, I would try not to solder anything next to the gyro wire here. So yeah, just take that consideration. So forget the orientation of the board. I have it just set up so it could be in a stationary position and I could easily solder it. So we're going to need these 3 pads, 5-volt, ground, and video in. So let's go ahead and start preparing them first. I already have the wires prepared, so it should be pretty simple. So here is, what is this, ground? There's ground, and this is, I think, 5-volt. And this is the video in. Okay, make sure I didn't touch that. Perfect. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start with the video in first. Right there. I'm gonna try to seep it through, which is heating up the pad first and then just guiding it in. There we go. We got our first wire in. Now same thing I'm gonna do with the 5-volt. I'm gonna heat up the pad first and then just guide it right in. Perfect. And then now ground. Same thing. Just make sure I have, and you guys could see everything. Okay. Okay, I heard a little sound, which I'm gonna need to double check, which could possibly have one of the ground little strands pop out and touch something, and you need to always double check that. And No, I am perfect on this. So it's very good. That's perfect. So we just finished our camera wires here. And now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and jump to our VTX. Now there isn't really much documentation online, and but it's kind of straightforward if you have good eyesight. Here is ground on this side right there, this side of the board, this side of the gyro. So let's just actually set this up as how it's supposed to go in. So let's flip the quad. So in theory, that's the front. Over there is the front. We're gonna grab this guy, and this guy would go in like so. You have your USB to the right, the ESC connector to the right, and what you want to do is take a look at is here. You have ground, and I think this is B+, which means the battery voltage, and then V out. So V out. So here we had V in, which is video in from the camera, goes to the bottom side of the OSD, and goes to the video out, which goes to the VTX. So now we're going to prepare just these 3 pads at the current moment of time, and I might use, I think it was TX6, where I'm going to put the blue wire of the VTX right now. I think that's where it goes, if I remember correctly. So let me go ahead and let's start preparing those pads that we need. Okay, so there we go. Just try to zoom in a little bit more. All right, there we go. So where is the solder? And again, I hate losing the solder. There it is. All right. So we just need the first kind of 3 pads in a way. So we need that one, which is battery plus. Okay. This one, which was I think ground. And that one, which was video out. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna leave the blue wire for later then. So B+, I'm gonna do that first because it's so far inside. And if I solder anything before, it's gonna be very difficult for me to get back to that one without touching a component from the other side. So right now what I'm doing is I'm shortening the wires a little bit, which is better, so I don't have it stick too far down and then just hit something. So B+ is going to be the red wire of the VTX, which means the battery voltage here. And again, same technique. That went in perfect. And now we're going to need the ground, which is here. So let's just do the ground while we're here. There we go. So make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm gonna have to move my hand back a little bit. So I'm just gonna heat up the pad and just use the soldering iron to kind of, I just push it like this, just small pushes while I guide the wire in. But I try not to touch the wire because then the solder on the wire would basically go away and then have the strands just push out like this, which is something you really don't want. So again, same thing. I'm gonna do the video now. I'm gonna heat up the pad, make sure it's heated up, and then there we go. Perfect. So now we have these in. We're also left with a blue wire. I think I'm just gonna probably connect it to like a, I think it goes to TX. I just keep forgetting for some reason because I really don't use the OSD to control my VTX. I might just even just cut this off and just ignore it for now. Let's just do that. We'll figure something out for this later on. Alright, so we're done in that perspective. Now we just need one more thing, which is the receiver. And here it is. And I believe on the Hakcrcs, even though this one's not specifying, but we'll figure it out later in the setup process. I believe RX3 is the inverted signal for S-Bus. So we're going to need a 5 volt, a ground, and I think RX3 for S-Bus here. I'm just double checking down here. Doesn't really say much. Okay. So, yeah. All right. Well, anyways, I think on F7s you could put it anywhere, if I remember correctly. I think I do remember correctly. On F7s you could put them anywhere. So there's a 5 volt. So what we're gonna need now, first of all, we need this ground right there, and then we're also gonna need this 5 volt. And then I'm going to put it on RX6 to prove the point where you could put it anywhere on F7. It's not like the F4, so I think you can put it anywhere, and it automatically has an inverter built into the microcontroller unit, if I remember correctly. And I'm sure I do. I think I really do here. So here's the ground pad. Let's prepare this pad here. This is going to be power for our receiver. So there we go. Okay, and the 5V is right there. Okay, and here's the RX6. I wish they were next to each other, but you know, what can I say? Maybe they just didn't have the space for it. Alright, so what I want to do is I actually want to start with the 5V because it's in, and then when I do this it might be a little bit difficult for me to get to it. So I'm going to get the red from the receiver, which is the 5V, and I'm just going to heat up the pad and then slowly guide it in. There we go. Beautiful. And now this one was what? Ground. So let's go ahead and set up ground. Okay. So can you see everything? Yep. I'm gonna heat up the pad here, and then slowly bring the ground in right there. Alright, that's beautiful. And now the S bus, which we're gonna go to RX6 basically on this board, because it's just closer. I remember on the older Kakutes it was the RX3 that was always inverted for S bus, but we'll figure that out soon enough. So there we go. We have our receiver in, we have our VTX wire, and our camera wire. So basically the flight controller is complete, and to connect the ESCs and to give this flight controller power, it happens through this one connector that comes with the Tico 32. So it's a very simple and clean build here. So there we go. Basically that's basically everything here right there. So let's put this guy to the side. Now what we need to do is add Xt60 connector and add the motors. So let me go ahead and put the motors onto the frame, and then we'll take it from there. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and start preparing the motors. I already have them installed. I made sure the lines are straight. It doesn't really matter, but I just did anyways. And I prepared the wires so we can start soldering them to the ESC. Now we might do 2 motors together, all of them, or just basically just one of them, because it's all the same process. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the standoff in place. I'm going to go ahead and start with this motor here. So let me see if I can arrange the camera into a different position, which would be slightly better for everybody. There we go. Okay. Alright, a nice little zoom. So I think we're going to start with this side here. So these 3, 1, 2, 3 right there. And this would be motor 1, and that's correct. This is the back side for me. Alright, so we're going to go ahead. As you can tell here, this is the wire to the most. I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab these tweezers. And I'll leave a link to these tweezers down below. I made a previous video on them. They have more than one function. Some people might argue that that's the way to ruin your wires. But it's a way to also, in my opinion, it's a way to have a good solder job and a good build on your hand. And obviously, if you're not careful, you'll ruin the wire somewhat. So now we're just going to go ahead and tap it in. What I like to do is I like to add pressure first with the tweezers against the pad, and then I just come in and just heat both of them up and listen to this beautiful crunching sound. And that wasn't a very nice beautiful job, but we'll come back and retouch that. So now we're going to take the second wire here, and there it is. Okay, and I'm just going to align it. And again, hit it right here. Okay, that was a lot better. Okay, and we're gonna do one more together. I think I'll skip the rest because it's just all basically the same thing. Just make sure after you do this step that there's no little solder, there's no little extra wire, nothing is sticking out and going to the next pad over. As you can tell, I moved it at the last second there. There we go. That's nice. So we'll come back and retouch this one now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add pressure here. And I'm just going to go ahead and keep it like this. I'm holding it with the solder iron. I'm going to add a little bit of solder. Come back with the tweezers. And try not to have this be like that for a very long time. Again, I'm moving it at the last second. There we go. So we fixed up that joint right there, and let's see how that looks for you guys. Hopefully it's focused in. There we go. It looks nice and shiny, nice and beautiful, and nothing is touching. So I'm just gonna skip the other ones, or maybe we'll just do one more together, I guess, and then I'll skip the other ones, and it's basically the same process. So let's go ahead and start with this one here, and I'm gonna install this standoff back into place. here. Okay, I'll remove that one a little bit. It's always good to remove the standoffs if you can, because the ESC is super hot, and I just almost burned my finger. But yeah, it's always very good to remove the standoffs whenever you can, because you just you could contaminate the solder, and it reduces the structural integrity of the nylon standoff itself. And I've had them break on me before in hard crashes, and that's why I'm saying that. So here's another wire. I love silicone wires, they're just so awesome. There we go. Just wait for it. No, I think I moved it. Try not to move the wire. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. There we go. And we'll just do one more. There we go. I'm gonna try to do it without moving the standoff, removing the standoff I mean, and seeing. I am already touching the standoff. Oh, it was pretty decent. I'm satisfied with that one. Alright, so there we go. It's exactly how I wanted them to come in. Very nice and very clean. Beautiful. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip the other side. It's the same thing basically. It doesn't matter where you put the wire. I mean, it does kind of matter, in these three, obviously one motor. Those three, obviously one motor, but it doesn't matter where you put them in those three. And because that could be changed through the software. And if you ever wanted to change it without the software, for example, this motor back here was spinning the wrong way and you want it to spin the other way, and you didn't want to go play with the software, all you have to do is take any two wires and just flip them and you're good to go. That motor's orientation has switched. So I'm going to go ahead and skip over the rest here real quick, come back, and then we're going to put the whole thing together and see how well it's going to come out to be. Alright guys, so I've gone ahead and prepared the rest of the motors and the Xt60, and I used heat shrink to hold it in place here. I chose this method because the Xt60 was already pre-made anyways, so that's why I did that with that one. Alright, so next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and connect the flight controller. And the flight controller is going to be connected via this wire, and this does come with the TECO32 and the basically the whole stack, which is very nice. And all we have to do now is just drop it into place. So let's see how this goes in. This should go in like so, because that's the front now. So there we go. And then we would connect this guy with this guy. This wire here that's coming from the ESC will provide the signal for each motor, will provide the power and the current sensing. So that's very nice. Okay. Next step is we need to put some standoffs into place. And let's see, where are they? They should be right here. Okay, so we're gonna add 4 standoffs here. Here's one. All right. So these all came with the stack itself, but I think I lost a couple of them, or no, I just misplaced them. There they are. All right. So here we go. So every single standoff that I just used here comes with the whole stack, so you don't really have to worry about any of them, which is very nice. And I'm still missing one more. I have no idea where I placed. Oh no, there it is. Okay. So that's awesome. And one more. So this is going to be for the VTX. Now we're just going to drop in the VTX into place. So make sure these are tightened down. Now there's no need to soft mount because the gyro is already soft mounted right there. And let's go ahead and grab the AT ladle. Now I don't know how I'm going to connect it. Okay, since this is the back, and if we take a look here, this is the thingy. So yeah, I think this is how we're going to install it, just like this. And we should have enough clearance. Yeah, we just have beautiful clearance there. The old AT ladle had a heat sink and had all these things that are, better in reality, but what that happens is it takes so much more space, and that's the reason. Plus, by the way, this comes with a microphone, as you can tell right there, so that's also kind of nice to have. I'm not going to put all 4, I'm just going to put 3 because the stack doesn't really matter that much. So we're just going to put 3 screws here to hold this guy in place. and I don't know if I'll tighten them. Let's see, if I find this screwdriver next to me, then I will tighten them. If not, then I think I've tightened them good enough with my hands here. Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, there we go. Oh man, yeah, that's not gonna go anywhere. So now we're just gonna grab our VTX wire, and we're gonna go ahead and connect this guy right there. Our receiver will find a place for it, probably zip tight back here. And now the camera. So the camera's already pretty much ready here. Here we go. All right, so we're just gonna plug this guy in. Let's see, video. There we go. All right, that's in. Now we're gonna put the little beast in place. So that's one side in, second side I think in. There we go, that's totally in now. All right, and last but not least is the final upper part here. And then we're gonna have to use some kind of possibly double-sided tape, or I think once we put these through here, they'll be held just fine. So let's just do that now. Here we go. And these are, oh, it's backwards. All right. So I'm going to connect this guy. Oh, please don't tell me it's a different type of connector. Hold on, because I used from the older one. No, it should fit just fine. Just there we go. Okay, just need a little soft persuasion or persuasion. Anyways, all right, now we're just gonna stick our antennas through here. Usually I tape them to the back arms, but if I get some kind of a way to mount them otherwise, then I just go with that one that way. Oh, god damn it. All right, so I'm just gonna skip this part because it's gonna be really annoying possibly to watch me do it. All right, so the antenna's in and the VTX and everything. Now I just need to align the camera plate here, and we should be pretty much done. Maybe I should start with the right one here. Seems a little bit weird. There we go. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Wow. Okay, so now let's just start putting in our screws, and we should be pretty much done. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip over the screws real quick. We'll come back, we'll take a look at it. I promise you I won't do any more modifications. So I'm just gonna skip over the screw installation, and I'll be right back. All right guys, so the quad or the build is basically complete here, and it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely stunning. This is gonna be a pretty sick freestyle frame, freestyle quad here. We have our GoPro right there just set up, and I could put up to a 6S lipo. I think I could put up to a 6S lipo, and I could put 6-inch arms. I don't remember if this is a 7 or 6-inch one I have, because I have both. I have a 6 and a 7. Kind of looks like a 7 here, but I know this thing flew absolutely phenomenal. So we're gonna see how all this turns out. I to be honest, I really can't wait. It looks pretty badass. I mean, for sure the motors here will pick this up with no problem. These are basically super premium performing motors, and I have no doubt in the motors. I just have doubt in myself breaking it possibly. So dry weight is 300. Is that dry weight? Yeah, it's 340 grams. So 340 grams, that's really not that bad, kind of. If we add some propellers and some battery, here's a 4S lipo. What do we have? 526 so now. So yeah, it's a freestyle frame. I mean, it's not for racing. You probably use it for racing if you're having fun, but for hardcore racing, I don't think this would be it for you. But yeah, it absolutely looks stunningly beautiful. The stack came out very clean, as you could tell right there. We still have space up there. The receiver is down here. It's kind of held together because of these little straw thingies that come with the plastic things that come with the frame. I'll just put double-sided tape on the bottom. It'll just hold it in place right there. I'll keep the bind button available for me, so I just click it like this. Camera, absolutely perfect. We just have a lot of space in there, and it looks like a pretty phenomenally clean build. So I will be taking this guy out. But both videos will come out from the previous build and this one at the same time. I'm waiting for the GoPro Session to arrive. I picked up a used one, and we're gonna see how well that's gonna turn out. So overall, as you can tell, it just looks like a monster. It looks like a beast, and we're just gonna have to wait and see how well it flies. And I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like this type of content, please consider joining my Patreon. $1 or $2 a day would really help, a day, a month, would really help support this channel and keep it going. And I'll leave a link to everything down below if you want to go ahead and check it out. That'd be super awesome. And I will see you next time. See you guys. Take care.